message was the spark that kept the shadows from swallowing them. But now the fire's out, not in anger, not in bitterness, but because you realized you were the only one feeding the flame. And suddenly, the silence you left behind, it's colder than they expected. It's darker than they're ready to admit. You see, most people don't miss you when you're loud. They miss you when you're gone, when the space you used to fill no longer lights up their screen, when your name doesn't flash at the top anymore. That's when curiosity creeps in. That's when ego wrestles with doubt. That's when they start to wonder, did I lose someone who actually cared? We've been fed this lie, my friends, this lie that silence is weakness, that if you really cared, you'd reach out, that texting first is strength. No, that's noise culture, that's ego in disguise. But Stoicism teaches something much deeper. Marcus Aurelius said, "Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be one." And a good man, a grounded man, doesn't need to prove anything through emojis, late-night paragraphs, or second chances handed out like candy. You didn't go quiet to play games. You went quiet because peace is your new power. You went quiet because you're not trying to be remembered. You're busy becoming unforgettable. And now they're left staring at their phone, wondering why the message never came. Not because they miss what you said, but because they miss the version of themselves that only felt stable when you were holding the emotional ground. And here's the fun part. Most won't say it. They'll pretend they're fine. They'll post like they've moved on. But every LOL and I'm good has a shadow. And that shadow is you. The version of you that didn't chase. The version that chose growth over games, presence over panic, dignity over desperation. You see, real detachment doesn't mean you don't feel. It means you don't flinch. It means you don't collapse under the weight of someone else's silence. You become the weight. You become the echo. And while they might never send that "I miss you" text, they will feel the absence like a phantom limb. They'll scroll through the archives. They'll remember the calm, the consistency, the way your presence used to soften their chaos. But that's not your burden anymore, my friend. That chapter closed with a silent punctuation mark. And now your silence, it's sacred, it's solid, it's speaking for you. So let me say this as we step into this journey. Never underestimate the power of the message you didn't send. Because sometimes not texting back is the loudest "I've changed" you'll ever deliver. Write this in the comments if you're with me right now. Silence is strength. Drop it below. Let the world know. And if you haven't already, hit that like button and subscribe, because what's coming next, it's going to flip the whole game. Stay with me. The message they expected never came. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can say is nothing at all. You were supposed to text back. At least that's what they thought. That's what their ego counted on. Maybe not right away, but eventually. A few days later, a week, a month. They expected the ping, the apology, the just thinking of you, because in the past, you always broke first. You were the bridge, the anchor, the soft place they fell into when things got cold. But now, nothing, no message, no check-in, no chase. And that silence, it's starting to whisper louder than any words ever did. Imagine this, my friends, a stage where the lights suddenly go out. The performer keeps waiting for the spotlight to return, keeps posing, keeps smiling, but the light never comes back on. And now, they're standing alone in the dark, still performing. For an audience that's no longer watching, that's what your silence feels like. Not cruel, not loud, just gone. And let's be honest, at some point, they counted on your pattern, the way you couldn't sit still in the discomfort, the way you always sent that second message, the one after no reply, the way you couldn't bear the silence. But not this time. This time, you didn't flinch. And whether they show it or not, it rattled them. Because here's what nobody wants to admit. We don't always crave people. We crave their attention, their emotional labor, their willingness to stay when we push them away. And when that pattern ends, when the reliable message never comes, it creates a void, one they didn't prepare for, one they secretly hoped you'd fill again. This is the moment where doubts creep in. Did I push them too far? Are they really done? Why aren't they doing what they always do? And it's not just curiosity, it's control slipping through their fingers, control they thought they still had. But let me tell you something brutally honest. Most people don't miss you. They miss the version of you who still had hope. They miss the comfort of knowing they could mess up and you'd still show up. They miss the guy who would break his own boundaries just to keep the peace. And that version of you? He's gone. You see, the reason this silence is hitting different is because it's not tactical. It's not a strategy. It's transformation. You didn't go silent to trigger a response. You went silent because you no longer need one, and that's what shakes them to their core. There's a lie we've all been taught, folks. The lie that love always means reaching out. That real care means always keeping the door open. That if you don't speak up, you'll lose them forever. But here's the truth. You didn't lose them. They lost access to the version of you that still needed closure. You gave everything. You spoke your truth. You showed up when it mattered. But then something shifted, something internal, something powerful. You realized that love without respect is just emotional slavery. You realized that your worth isn't measured by how many messages you send. It's measured by how many times you didn't send the one you were tempted to. Let me remind you of something Seneca once wrote. He who is brave is free. And choosing not to text, choosing silence when your soul is screaming for connection, that's bravery most people will never understand. But you've started to understand it now. You've started to feel the strength in not reacting, the quiet power in letting things fall without catching them. Yes, it's uncomfortable. Yes, your fingers might still hover over their name some nights. But discomfort isn't a sign you're doing something wrong. It's a sign you're growing, becoming, healing. Becoming the kind of man who doesn't break just because the old dance isn't dancing anymore. So let's ask the hard question. Why is it so hard to let the message go unsent? Because somewhere in you, there's still a little boy who was taught that silence means rejection, that if someone doesn't respond, it's your fault, that love means effort, and effort means always being the one to try again. But my friend, that's not love. That's programming. That's childhood survival masquerading as romantic courage. And now, you're rewriting the script. You're letting that message remain unsent. You're resisting the need to fix, to soothe, to explain one more time. And the more you do it, the more you start to see something shocking. The peace that comes from not needing a reply is greater than the chaos that used to come from chasing one. You've broken the loop, and now they're the ones stuck in it. Because what do you think happens when someone who always expected a response stops getting one? They spiral. Not always visibly, not always dramatically, but slowly, internally. And that's the part they'll never admit. That they check their phone more now than they did before. That every seen notification that isn't you feels like another drop of doubt in their chest. This is where your power lives, not in shouting, not in pleading, but in presence through absence. You are no longer trying to be chosen. You are choosing yourself. And that, my friend, is the kind of strength that doesn't just speak. It echoes. It reverberates. It lingers long after you've gone silent. So if you're sitting there tonight, holding back a message, biting your tongue, feeling the weight of the void, know this. The message they expected never came. And that was the moment they realized. You're not the same man anymore. Write this in the comments if you feel this in your bones. I broke the pattern. Let them know. Let yourself know. Let the world see it. And while they sit wondering where you went, who you've become, and why it never came, you just keep becoming the kind of man whose silence says it all. And stay with me, because in the next part, we'll talk about what really happens when you stop chasing and curiosity starts pulling them back in. When you don't chase, curiosity takes over. Disappear long enough, and you become the question they can't stop asking. You used to chase. Let's be real, most of us did. You saw the typing bubbles and waited. You saw a story go up and sent a quick reaction. You held on to a thread of hope like it was a lifeline, thinking that if you just said the right thing, showed the right care, made the right move, they'd see your worth. You chased, not because you were weak, but because you cared. But now, something changed. You didn't just stop texting, you stopped reaching. You didn't just close the tab, you burned the bridge to who you used to be. And that silence, that pause, that total withdrawal, it didn't go unnoticed. See, when you stop chasing, curiosity creeps in, quietly, slowly, powerfully, like fog rolling into a familiar town. Everything looks the same, but suddenly, nothing feels clear. Why hasn't he reached out? Did he block me? Has he moved on? Is he with someone else? Did I matter at all? That's what happens, folks. You were once the certainty, the constant, the echo in the void. But now, you've become the unknown. And let me tell you something about the human mind. It hates the unknown. It will fill in blanks, invent stories, replay memories, dig through the past like a detective searching for clues. All because you did one powerful thing. You didn't chase. You see, most people think being silent makes you invisible, but the Stoic knows better. Silence, when rooted in power, not pity, is unforgettable. When you disappear with dignity, your absence isn't empty. It becomes magnetic. It doesn't push them away. It pulls at them, not because you're manipulating anything, but because they didn't expect you to stop playing the game. And it was a game, wasn't it? They pull away. You lean in. They go quiet. You try harder. They leave the door open just enough, and you tiptoe back in, hoping they'll welcome you this time. But this time, you didn't walk through. You didn't knock. You didn't even stand outside. You vanished. And now they're the ones pacing. They're the ones scrolling. They're the ones doing mental gymnastics, wondering if you ever cared at all, or if they simply lost access to someone they never truly appreciated. This is where curiosity grows, my friends, in the vacuum of effort. When you stop texting, you stop explaining, stop reacting. They don't feel peace. They feel the tension of unanswered questions. They feel the mirror you left behind, one that shows them what it feels like when you're no longer holding space for their inconsistency. Marcus Aurelius said, "The best revenge is to be unlike him who performed the injury." And you've done exactly that. Instead of proving your worth through effort, you've stepped back and let your stillness prove your evolution. You're no longer chasing because you finally understand what's real doesn't require a reminder. What's aligned doesn't need to be begged for. What's meant for your peace doesn't need to be pulled into your life. It stays, willingly. Now you might ask, but what if they forget me? What if silence makes me fade from their mind? Let me stop you right there. You don't fade. You echo. You become the sentence they can't finish. The page they never turned, the name they pretend doesn't hurt to hear, because they don't forget the man who once cared deeply and then chose himself. They don't forget the one who stopped chasing, not out of spite, but out of strength. And yes, it's hard. It's hard to resist the impulse to reach out when you miss them. It's hard to sit with your own longing while they pretend not to feel. But let me say this clearly, your value doesn't live in how fast you reply. It lives in how deeply you've reclaimed yourself, in how you've turned your silence into sanctuary, not a wall, not a punishment, just peace. So don't chase, my friend. Let them wonder. Let the stillness stir their thoughts. Let the absence speak. Because while they're checking their phone hoping you'll slip, you're out here growing, healing, building, living. And that's the kind of energy that doesn't need to announce its worth. It simply radiates it. Write this in the comments if this hit home for you. Curiosity follows my silence. Show them. Show yourself. Show the world what it looks like when a man chooses peace over pursuit. And stay with me, because next we're going to talk about just how often they still check that phone, hoping your name lights up the screen. They check their phone more than you think. People often pretend they've moved on, while secretly hoping the next notification is you. They act calm. They post like they're unbothered. Stories of coffee, sunsets, playlists, selfies with captions that scream freedom. But behind that screen, there's a moment they don't show, a habit they haven't shaken, a reflex they still carry like muscle memory. They check their phone, and for just a second, they hope. Hope it's your name, hope it's your words, hope that somehow, someway, you're still orbiting their world, even if they've given you every reason to stop. Here's the thing they don't want you to know, my friend. When someone gets used to your presence, your attention becomes part of their routine. And routines are hard to break, even when we claim we're over it, especially when we don't admit how much we relied on it. Imagine this. You were their emotional caffeine, that little burst of validation they didn't realize they were addicted to. A simple good morning from you had the power to set the tone for their day. A just checking in from you when they were low made them feel like someone out there actually saw them. You weren't just texting, you were anchoring their self-worth. And now, that anchor's gone, and every notification they get that isn't you, it stings a little more than the last. They check their messages late at night. They scroll through your old texts, not to reply, but to feel something, to remember what it was like to be chosen without asking for it. And yeah, maybe they don't say it out loud. Maybe they even say the opposite. I'm glad he stopped texting. I needed space. I'm over it. But if that's true, why do they still read your messages? Why haven't they deleted the thread? Because the thread holds more than your words. It holds memories, security, the kind of care they never fully thanked you for. And now that you've gone silent, every vibration, every ping, every late-night glance at the lock screen becomes a little moment of wondering, a tiny flash of maybe he texted, maybe he still cares, maybe I didn't lose him completely. But you're not feeding that maybe anymore. You're not giving them the hit they used to rely on, and without that hit, the withdrawal begins, not all at once, not dramatically, but gradually, quietly, in those little pauses where they used to feel important, and now they just feel missing. Seneca once said, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste much of it." And how much time do you think they've spent, even unconsciously, waiting for a message they claim they don't need? Let's be real. It's easy to act indifferent when someone is still chasing. It's easy to play the role of the one in control when attention is predictable. But remove that attention, break that pattern, and the truth reveals itself. Suddenly, you're not the one feeling uncertain. They are. Suddenly, you're not the one watching stories or rereading old words. They are. And here's what makes it powerful. You didn't force it. You didn't manipulate anything. You just stepped back. Not in rage, not in bitterness, but in power, in peace, in a quiet decision that said, my energy is no longer available where it's not respected. You stopped sending energy into a void. And now the void is talking back. Not with words, but with silence that's starting to feel heavy on their side. You want to know how often they check their phone for you. More than you'll ever know. More than they'll ever admit. And the longer you stay quiet, the louder your absence becomes. It starts to echo in places they used to feel strong. And that echo, it's not saying, I miss you. It's saying, you lost something you thought would never leave. So if your mind is playing tricks on you, telling you they've forgotten, that they're fine, that they never cared, pause. And look again. Look not at what they say, but at what they don't. Look at the patterns they still keep, the digital breadcrumbs they leave behind, the hesitation in their silence. Because silence isn't always indifference. Sometimes it's guilt, sometimes it's regret. Sometimes it's pride trying to protect a heart that doesn't want to admit it's aching. And that phone, it's a battlefield. Every alert a possible war between ego and hope. Write this in the comments if you feel it. They still check. That's all. Just those 3 words. Say it for you. Say it for every time you doubted. And say it so another man scrolling through the same silence knows he's not alone. Stay with me, because in the next section, we'll talk about the fantasy they won't admit. The one where you text, just once. Just one message. The fantasy they don't admit. The mind creates stories the mouth won't say out loud. They'll never say it. They'll never tell a soul. But it's there, that quiet little craving, that soft, secret hope that maybe, just maybe, you'll text again. One message. That's all. Nothing dramatic, just something small. Hey, you crossed my mind. A ripple in the silence that proves they still have a place in your mind. They won't show it, of course. Pride is a powerful mask. They'll post as if they've moved on, talk like they've grown, laugh like they're lighter without you. But behind the eyes, in the quiet space between scrolling and sleeping, there's a story unfolding, a fantasy they'll never admit. The one where you break first. The one where your name lights up their screen and they act surprised, even though they were hoping for it. Because let's be honest, most people don't let go. They just get better at pretending they did. And the fantasy, it lives in that space, the space you left behind when you stopped explaining, when you stopped giving them access to the version of you who still wanted answers. Imagine it like this. You were once their emotional charger. When things felt low, they plugged into your attention. Your words gave them power, reassurance, a hit of something real. And now, that outlet is gone. You cut the current. And even if they don't say it, they still sit there, phone in hand, wondering if the energy will return. But it doesn't. Not because you hate them, not because you're bitter, but because you've evolved, because you've realized that texting someone who let go of you isn't connection, it's a performance, and you're done performing. Still, the fantasy plays in their head, because there's a comfort in believing you'll return. It protects them from having to face the truth that maybe they let go of something good, maybe they pushed away someone who actually cared. And if you don't come back, that fantasy breaks. And when the fantasy breaks, so does the illusion of control. Marcus Aurelius said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." And you, my friend, have taken that power back. You're not here to send breadcrumbs. You're not here to make them feel better about letting you go. You're here to grow in your absence, to become someone they don't recognize anymore. Not because you changed to hurt them, but because healing forced you to outgrow the space they only offered when it was convenient. And let's talk about the other side of this. Why do they want you to text? Not because they're ready for accountability, not because they've done the work, but because it would soothe something in them, something they don't want to fix themselves. Your message, even a small one, would give them a dopamine hit. I still matter. They still care. It would let them keep living in limbo, emotionally unavailable, but still emotionally fed. That's the dangerous part. They don't want the whole you. They want just enough to feel important. And you're no longer handing out emotional crumbs. You've stopped feeding people who only sit at your table when they're hungry, but never when it's time to give back. It's easy to think, what's the harm in one message? But let me break that lie. The harm is this. One message resets their story. It tells them you're still playing, still orbiting, still emotionally invested in someone who's only investing in your silence. But you're not that man anymore. You've learned that the most honest answer doesn't come with a long paragraph. It comes with space. You don't need closure. You are the closure. And your silence? It's not empty. It's the message, the one that says, I've outgrown needing your attention to feel worthy. So let the fantasy live in their head. Let it echo. Let them picture your name showing up. Let them wonder if you'll break first. And when you don't, when you keep walking in peace instead of chasing in confusion, that fantasy starts to turn into regret, into reflection, into realization. Write this in the comments if you know exactly what I mean. The message they want won't come. Say it for yourself. Say it for the man you used to be. Say it so the next time your mind whispers, maybe just one message, you remember. You've already sent the most powerful one, your silence. Stay with me, because in the next part, we're going even deeper. We'll talk about how the silence you hold doesn't just haunt them, it starts speaking for you, loud, clear, and unforgettable. You stopped speaking, now their mind speaks for you. When your voice goes quiet, their mind starts shouting your name. You stopped explaining. You stopped trying to make them see it from your side. You stopped overthinking every word, every tone, every pause in the conversation. You stopped texting first. And now, the silence you left behind. It's not silence at all. It's echoes. Echoes that live in their mind, playing on repeat, getting louder by the day. They don't hear from you. So now they hear you inside their own head. Because here's the truth nobody talks about. When you stop speaking, their imagination starts working overtime. Every second you stay silent becomes a question mark they can't answer. Every day you don't reach out becomes a mirror they can't look away from. Did I go too far? Was he really done with me? Is he seeing someone else? Does he even care anymore? And that's the shift, folks, the one they never expected. You were once the one chasing clarity. You were the emotional anchor, the constant presence, the safety net. But now you've disappeared, and in that void, their mind does the talking for you. Their thoughts become the text thread. Their guilt becomes your voice. Their confusion becomes your presence. They'll never admit it, but they've started arguing with memories, talking to screenshots, replaying your last message like it holds some hidden code. Because it wasn't just what you said, it was how you said it. Calm, honest, without desperation. And then you vanished. No begging, no breakdown, just stillness. Stillness that speaks volumes. You see, when someone is used to your emotional availability, your silence becomes unbearable. It's not just about the lack of words, it's about the absence of the emotional warmth they took for granted. That presence they didn't fully understand until it was gone. And now, every scene with no response, every unanswered thought, every quiet moment in their day, it hits harder than they thought it would. It's like walking into a room where music used to play and realizing the silence now says more than the lyrics ever did. And let's not lie, there's a part of you that wanted to say something that still wants to some nights. You stare at the screen, your thumbs hover, you draft something in your mind. But then you remember, they know where to find you. They know what they did. They know the silence isn't confusion, it's clarity. You're not punishing them. You're not ghosting them. You're just done explaining your worth to someone who knew what they had and still let it go. Epictetus said, "We have 2 ears and 1 mouth so that we can listen twice as much as we speak." But sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is stop speaking altogether and listen to what the silence reveals. Because when you stop trying to convince someone of your value, something wild happens. They start trying to convince themselves that they didn't lose it. That's the battle happening in their mind right now. They're not just remembering you, they're debating themselves. One voice says, "He probably doesn't care anymore." The other whispers, "But what if he does?" and he just finally realized he deserves better. And that second voice, that's the one they hear at night. That's the one that lingers after the parties, after the laughter, after the stories. That's the voice that gets louder every time they check their phone and your name still isn't there. You've become the question, the mirror, the unanswered text they never sent. So here's your reminder. Your silence isn't weakness. It's weight. It's presence. It's proof that you've reached a level of growth that no longer relies on attention to feel whole. You don't need a conversation to feel complete. You don't need validation to feel seen. You've learned to stand still while the world spins, and that stillness, it's not empty, it's sacred. Write this in the comments if you know the power of your silence. My silence speaks for me. Say it as a reminder. Say it for the man you're becoming. Say it for the younger version of you who used to beg for closure, because now you are the closure. And stay with me, because next we're going to talk about what happens when your detachment becomes the message, and they finally realize you're no longer waiting. Your detachment is the message. When you stop chasing, you don't need to speak. Your absence does the talking. They thought you'd come back, maybe not right away, but eventually. They thought this was just another one of those phases where you'd go quiet for a bit, let your feelings cool, and then return like you always did. A meme, a just checking in, a subtle sign you were still there. Because that's the rhythm they got used to. The silent breaks, followed by your emotional return. But this time, it's different, because you didn't just go silent, you detached. And detachment isn't silence with hope. Detachment is silence with clarity. And that's what's throwing them off. You're not waiting, you're not watching, you're not playing the game anymore. You're gone, not just from their phone, but from the emotional space they used to occupy for free. You see, detachment isn't about closing your heart. It's about guarding your peace. It's not about pretending you don't care. It's about caring so much about yourself that you stop overextending for people who only loved you when it was convenient. They feel that shift. Trust me, they feel it. Because your energy used to lean in. It used to soften when they pulled away. You'd find some way to reach, to explain, to fix what they never even admitted was broken. You brought depth to conversations they barely showed up for. You carried the weight when they were too proud to help you lift. But now, there's a gap, a stillness, and not the kind that waits, the kind that leaves. And you didn't announce it. You didn't post about it. You didn't make a scene. You just pulled your roots out of soil that wasn't nourishing you. And that quiet act of detachment, it's now the loudest message they've ever received. They check their phone and feel it. They scroll past your name and sense it. They talk about you with friends and something doesn't sit right. Because you're not just quiet, you're unavailable, you're unreachable, and not because you blocked them, but because you've emotionally leveled up beyond their access point. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "It is in your power to withdraw yourself whenever you desire. Perfect tranquility consists in the good ordering of the mind." That's what you've done. You've reordered your mind, reclaimed your energy, redirected your loyalty back to yourself. And now that you've detached, they're starting to feel something they never planned on, regret without control. Because here's the part that stings. The moment they realize you're no longer reacting to their crumbs, the story views, the vague posts, the random "hope you're good" message, they used to mean something to you. They used to spark a response, but not anymore. Now they sit unread, or worse, read, but unbothered. Because you've stepped into the most powerful position of all, emotional neutrality. And that neutrality, it's terrifying to someone who used to pull you back in with ease. It forces them to sit in the emotional mess they never cleaned up. And this time, there's no one showing up with a broom and a kind heart. This time, the echo they're hearing is real. This time, the door isn't half open. It's closed, and you're not standing on the other side anymore. You've become the message, not by trying to be, but by finally stopping the trying. You're no longer asking to be seen. You're no longer hoping they get it. You're no longer explaining what was obvious the whole time. You've detached, and in doing so, you've taken away the only thing they ever really responded to, your attention. That, my friend, is power, not coldness, not manipulation, but sovereignty. Because when someone no longer has emotional access to you, they can no longer play with your peace. Write this in the comments if you know exactly what this means. My detachment says it all. Say it for you. Say it for every version of yourself that used to overgive, over-explain, and overextend. Show them, show yourself, show the world that you're not just silent, you're unshakable now. And stay with me, because next we'll explore what Stoicism teaches about silence, space, and why stepping back is often the greatest act of self-respect you'll ever commit. They might want you to text, but that's not your job anymore. You are not responsible for the comfort of those who couldn't keep you. They might miss you, they might wish you'd text, and deep down, they probably do. But here's the truth you need to hear, my friend. That is not your responsibility anymore. There's a version of you that would have jumped at the thought. That would have taken their silence as a challenge, their distance as a problem to solve. You would have sent that message, carefully crafted, full of emotion, hoping to rebuild what never truly stood on solid ground. But that version of you has been through the fire. That version of you already broke for someone who didn't know how to hold what they were given. And now you understand something powerful. Just because they're hoping for your message doesn't mean you owe it. They didn't value it when it came freely. They didn't answer with the same energy. They didn't meet you with the effort you kept offering. And yet here they are, still hoping, still wondering, still checking. Because the silence they thought would make you beg has only made you better. The space they thought you'd collapse in, you grew in, quietly, painfully, authentically. They didn't see what they had when it was showing up day after day. But now that your attention isn't available on demand, suddenly it's sacred. Now your energy has weight. Now they realize they can't just summon you with a story view or a half-hearted hey. The man they once knew, the one who used to fill every silence, he doesn't live here anymore. You've evolved. Because let's be honest, what they want isn't always real connection. Sometimes they want reassurance, control, that small dose of knowing they still have access. They don't want the work. They want the effect of being loved without the responsibility of loving you right in return. And that's the trap you no longer walk into. You are not a text machine. You are not the peace dispenser for people who gave you anxiety. You are not the emotional janitor who cleans up messes just because someone can't handle their own silence. You are a man who has learned the sacred art of letting go without needing them to understand why. Marcus Aurelius said, "The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts." And the thought you carry now is this: I do not chase what needs to be still. I do not carry what refuses to be lifted. They might want your message. They might dream about it. They might even build a fantasy where one day your name lights up their screen again and they finally feel chosen. But your job now isn't to give them closure wrapped in kindness. Your job now is to guard your energy like the sacred force it is, because you've earned this peace. Through heartbreak, through overgiving, through nights where your worth depended on a reply that never came, through the lessons that taught you don't prove value by being the one who never walks away. You prove it by finally knowing when to. So if you ever find yourself wondering, should I just text one more time? Pause, breathe, remember this truth. If they truly wanted to fix it, they wouldn't be waiting for you to start it again. They'd be at your door with a heart in their hands and no excuses in their mouth. But they're not. They're silent, or passive, or hoping you do the work so they don't have to. But you've already done the work. The silence you hold now, that's not punishment. It's protection, it's presence. It's the loudest declaration that you've stepped into a new season, one where your peace comes first, one where your worth doesn't bend for breadcrumbs, one where your silence isn't loneliness, it's legacy. Write this in the comments if you know you've stepped into that power. I don't owe the message. Let that be your reminder. Let that be your anchor. Let it echo for someone else who's still tempted to break their own peace for temporary comfort. And if this message woke something up inside you, like this video, subscribe and drop that sentence below so this movement grows. Because the man you're becoming, he doesn't text to be remembered. He lives in such a way that he becomes unforgettable. Some people collapse in silence because if they screamed, the truth would echo too loud to deny. They act calm. They smile at parties. They post selfies like life is golden. But something's off. You can feel it. And guess what? You're right. The pressure is mounting, the mask is slipping, and while they're busy pretending they're fine, deep down, they're crumbling, slowly, quietly, tragically. Before we dive in, hit that like button, subscribe, and stay close, because what we're about to unpack isn't just about them. It's about protecting your peace, your power, and your truth. Hey, folks, imagine this. Imagine a dam that looks strong on the outside. Cement, bricks, metal holding it together. But inside, tiny cracks are forming. You can't see them from the outside, but the pressure behind that wall, it's growing. And one day it doesn't explode with noise, it just splits, quietly, suddenly, and everything rushes out. That's what they're going through. You just can't see it, yet. See, my friends, when someone is truly cracking under pressure, they don't always cry for help. No, especially not the ones who used to act like they were too cool to care. Not the ones who left you like you were replaceable. Not the ones who once convinced themselves that cutting you off was healing. Those folks, they'll go out of their way to look okay. Because for them, image isn't just protection, it's survival. They don't want you to see the regret. They don't want you to see the fear creeping in late at night when no one's around. They don't want you to know that the silence you gave them is now the silence they can't escape. They'll laugh a little too loud, post a little too often, say they've moved on a little too quickly. That's not peace, my friend. That's performance. And I need you to stop believing the highlight reel. Just because someone looks okay doesn't mean they are. Just because they're posting pictures doesn't mean they're sleeping well. Just because they're smiling in public doesn't mean they're not breaking in private. That's the trick of emotional performance. Some people would rather fake strength than face their shame. But here's the truth they'll never say out loud. They feel it. They feel your absence. They feel the void where your love used to be. They feel the weight of decisions they thought would set them free. And now, that freedom feels hollow. My friends, your silence is louder than any closure they never gave. Your growth is more powerful than any explanation they withheld. And every time you chose peace over drama, healing over chasing, detachment over desperation, you taught them a lesson, one they're just starting to understand. Quiet regret hits harder than loud apologies. So if you've been wondering if they're truly okay, wonder no more. People don't always crack like glass. Sometimes they bend like metal, quietly under pressure, slowly warping in places no one sees, until one day they fold. Let them perform, let them pretend. You just keep becoming, keep healing, keep rising. And remember, it's not your job to catch someone who broke themselves running from the truth. Now here's your power move. Comment below this affirmation. I see through the silence. Let the world know. Let yourself know. Let them know. And if this hit home, smash that like button, subscribe for more truth, and stay with me, because what's coming next will open your eyes even wider. Let's go. Number 1, their eyes look alive, but they've gone numb inside. You can't always spot a breakdown. It wears a smile, makes eye contact and says, "I'm fine." Some of the most broken people look the most put together. That's the sick irony of emotional pressure. It doesn't always show up as tears. Sometimes it shows up as over-functioning, as robotic smiles, as polite nods, as someone saying, "I'm good," when what they really mean is, "I'm barely holding it together." My friends, if you've ever seen someone after a breakup or a fallout acting totally fine, too fine, you know what I mean. There's this blankness in their eyes. They laugh, but the laugh doesn't land. They talk, but they're not really there. You could be standing right in front of them, but it's like they've checked out. Their eyes look alive, but there's no soul in the room. And that, right there, that's one of the first hidden signs that someone's cracking under pressure. It's like watching a candle burn without a flame. The wax melts, time moves, the form still exists, but the light is gone. What you're seeing is the performance, not the person. The shell of someone who's trying desperately to keep it all together on the outside while inside something is unraveling. They might fool the world, but they can't fool energy. They can't fool the mirror. And they can't fool the silence that visits them when the music stops, the phone stops buzzing, and they're finally alone with the one person they've been running from, themselves. You might start asking yourself, but if they're hurting, why do they seem so composed? Because they've been trained, consciously or unconsciously, to equate emotion with weakness, vulnerability with danger. They were never taught how to process pain, only how to hide it. So when pressure builds, they don't open up. They shut down. They don't scream for help. They armor up. And they look you in the eye with a calmness that's terrifying because it's not real. It's survival. What's happening beneath that surface is a psychological war. One voice in their head is saying, "Act normal. You can't let them see you sweat." Another voice whispers, "Why does this still hurt?" And the third voice, the one they try to mute, is screaming, "You let something real slip away." But they won't say that. Not yet. Because if they admit that your absence is affecting them, they have to admit that their choices had consequences. They have to face the reality that detaching from you didn't bring the peace they promised themselves. That walking away didn't erase the emotional blueprint you left on their soul. So they pretend, they smile, they joke, they distract, they keep the conversation light, they focus on work, they go out more. But if you pay close attention, if you stop listening to what they say and start watching what they're avoiding, you'll see the cracks forming. You'll notice they struggle to hold eye contact when certain topics come up. You'll catch the delay in their answers when someone mentions your name. You'll hear the forced enthusiasm in their voice when they say they're doing great. Folks, the truth is, nobody has to pretend this hard unless something underneath is falling apart. And yet, many of you will doubt what you see. You'll gaslight yourself. You'll wonder, am I imagining this? No, you're not. You're just witnessing the collision between perception and truth. And the pressure they're feeling? It's not just regret, it's shame. Shame for how they handled things. Shame for how they pushed away someone who only wanted to love them. Shame for acting like you were disposable when now they feel the emptiness your presence once filled. And here's why this stage is hard to watch, because part of you might want to reach in, rescue, comfort, give them the words they can't say. But listen to me carefully. Don't. This moment, the numbness, the disconnection, the emotional void, is a rite of passage they must face. You can't feel it for them. You can't fix it. If you do, they don't learn. And worse, they don't change. The numbness you're seeing, that's the start of awareness. That's the part where the emotions they buried are starting to wake up, but they don't yet know how to handle them. And the very discomfort they're feeling, that's the consequence of your strength, your silence, your boundary. You didn't chase, you didn't explain yourself over and over. You didn't beg to be understood. You walked, and now they're sitting in the silence you left behind, wondering why the echo feels like a scream. It's easier for them to pretend, to hide, to perform, because if they told the truth, if they said, "I messed up, I miss you, I feel lost," they'd have to break the character they've been playing for so long. And some people are more loyal to their image than they are to their healing. But don't let the blank stares fool you. Don't let the steady voice or the calm exterior shake your knowing. The soul doesn't lie, and the energy doesn't lie. They feel it, even if they can't say it, even if they won't say it yet. So hold the line. Don't chase the mask. Stand rooted in your truth. Keep building, keep growing, keep becoming. Because the version of you they couldn't appreciate back then, that version is now the one they can't stop remembering. Comment this now. I trust what I see. Let it be your mirror. Let it be your strength. Let it be your compass when their smile tries to rewrite the truth. You're not crazy. You're not too sensitive. You're not reading too deep. You're just finally awake. And stay with me, because in the next section, we're peeling back another layer. The irritation, the outbursts, the unpredictable storms, they're not just mood swings, they're signs the pressure is about to overflow. Number 2, they get irritated by the smallest things. You can hide sadness behind a smile, but frustration always finds a crack to leak through. They used to be chill, right? Cool-headed, calm, unbothered. They acted like nothing could rattle them, like they were floating above the drama, sipping detachment like tea. But now it's different. Now they're getting snappy over the tiniest things. A simple comment sets them off. A mutual friend mentions your name, and suddenly they go quiet, change the subject, or lash out with some sarcastic jab. They're irritated, frustrated, and they don't know why. But you do, because when someone starts cracking under emotional pressure, it never explodes all at once. It starts with these subtle fractures in their behavior, the little ways their internal storm begins to spill out into the real world. And irritation, that's usually the first sign. Picture it like a pressure cooker. You can't see what's happening inside, but the heat's rising, the steam's building, and when the lid starts rattling, you know what's coming. Their irritation isn't about the surface-level stuff. It's not about the dishes, the traffic, the text you didn't reply to. It's about what they've been suppressing, the truth they're avoiding, the guilt they're trying to deny. My friends, unprocessed emotion doesn't just disappear. It hides. It morphs. It infects everything. And when someone tries to pretend they're not bothered by your absence, when they act like you were never important, like they're doing great, but deep down, they're spiraling. The mask starts slipping through emotion they can't control. Irritation. They'll snap at their friends, get cold with people they used to be warm with, passive-aggressive texts, little mood swings, a sudden cold shoulder, a sharp tone out of nowhere. That's not confidence, that's pressure, that's their nervous system glitching under the emotional load they swore they could carry with ease. And it might leave you confused. You might start asking, why are they acting like this now? Especially if they were the one who left, who ghosted, who claimed they needed space, freedom, peace. Weren't they supposed to be better off? Wasn't this what they wanted? Yes and no. See, they wanted peace, but they thought peace would come from distance, not from healing. They thought detachment meant power, that walking away meant freedom. But real peace doesn't come from avoiding emotions. It comes from facing them, and now that they're starting to feel the emotional cost of their decisions, they're not at peace. They're in turmoil, and it's showing up in the smallest cracks. They might not even realize it themselves. They'll think they're just tired or stressed out, or that everyone's being annoying. They won't admit that it's internal, that they're frustrated with themselves, that they're haunted by the silence they used to crave, that they scroll your social media late at night and feel something they can't name. They won't admit that they miss what they let go, that the peace they imagined feels empty. Because if they admit that, they have to confront the lie that they didn't care, the lie that walking away wouldn't hurt, the lie that detachment makes you stronger. It doesn't. Emotional avoidance doesn't build strength, it delays collapse. So now they're stuck between the image they're trying to uphold and the feelings they're trying to suppress. And that friction, it creates short tempers, mood shifts, irritability that seems out of character. But trust me, it's not random. It's a symptom. They're not mad at the world. They're mad at themselves. They're not angry at you. They're angry at how much they still feel you, and they don't know what to do with that. They told themselves they were fine, that they could move on without closure, that they could forget you like it was nothing. But now, their body is rejecting the lie. Their subconscious is rejecting the narrative, and that internal war is leaking into their behavior. It's like trying to hold your breath underwater. You can only do it for so long before you come up gasping. You might even catch wind of them talking about you, indirectly, sarcastically, defensively. They've changed. They're different now. They think they're too good. But listen carefully. Those words are laced with envy, with confusion, with the ache of someone who realizes they're no longer in control of the version of you they thought they knew. Your growth irritates them. Your silence frustrates them. Your healing burns them. Why? Because it exposes the fact that they're stuck, that they haven't evolved, that the distance didn't make them stronger. It just gave them more room to unravel in private. But let me tell you something powerful. Their irritation is proof that your absence matters. It's proof that the space you created with your silence, your boundaries, your detachment, it's working. Not because it's making them chase you, but because it's forcing them to face themselves. And that's the one thing they never wanted to do. They'd rather blame you than admit regret. They'd rather complain than confess. They'd rather snap at someone else than sit with their shame. But that's not your problem to fix. That's their growth to earn. So don't take it personally. Don't see their irritation as disrespect. See it as a signal, a crack in the wall, a sliver of truth breaking through the performance. And don't fall into the trap of softening your stance because they seem moody or sensitive. Stay grounded, stay firm. Because their emotional storm, it's not yours to walk through anymore. You already walked through enough of it when you loved them at their most unavailable. You already weathered the silence, the shutdowns, the deflections. This question mark, this is their turn to sit in the chaos. Comment this now. I see the cracks. Let it be your reminder. Let it be your clarity. Let it be your boundary. Show them. Show yourself. Show the world around you that you're done playing therapist to someone who never wanted healing until it was convenient, that you're no longer available for mixed signals and moody energy, that your peace is not up for negotiation. And stay with me, because in the next section, we're going deeper into the performance, the smiles, the stories, the happy posts. We're going to expose how joy can be faked, and how it always is when pressure becomes too loud to hide. Number 3, the overposting, oversmiling trap. When the heart is breaking but the ego is in charge, the mask becomes louder than the silence. They post like they've never been happier. New pictures, new captions, all smiles, all sunshine. Suddenly, they're a motivational speaker, a fitness guru, a self-love warrior, telling the world how healing looks on them. But here's the truth, my friends. Overposting is not proof of peace. It's a performance, a distraction, a trap designed not just to fool the world, but to fool themselves. Think of a house burning down on the inside. The walls are scorched, the floor is cracking, the air is thick with smoke. But outside, there's a welcome mat, a flower pot, fresh paint on the front door. That's how this kind of posting works. It's a way to scream, "I'm okay," when they're too scared to whisper, "I'm not." You know the ones, their stories are suddenly packed. Coffee selfies with deep captions, gym check-ins, sunset shots with quotes like, "Sometimes you have to lose to win," or "If they don't see your worth, walk away." They'll say it's for self-growth, but you know better. Those aren't declarations of power. Those are shields, emotional armor, digital coping mechanisms dressed up as confidence. But let me be clear, this isn't about shaming people for posting. Everyone uses social media to express themselves. What we're talking about here is when the posting becomes manic, when it feels forced, obsessive, out of character. Because when someone truly finds peace, they don't rush to prove it. They live it, quietly, calmly. Peace isn't loud, it's still. So why do they post like this? Because they lost control in real life, and they're trying to reclaim it online. They know they're no longer on your radar the way they once were, and that bothers them. Because even if they never admitted it, your attention was their drug. Your presence was their mirror. And now, with the mirror gone, they have to project an image back to themselves. Something, anything to believe that they're okay. They're trying to win a game that only they're playing, and every like, every comment, every looking good is just another sip of temporary relief. But deep down, they know the truth. Healing isn't aesthetic. Growth isn't a photo shoot. And pretending to be okay isn't the same as being okay. What's dangerous is how convincing the illusion can be. You might scroll and wonder, were they always this confident? Did they really move on that fast? That's the trap. That's the illusion. That's the ego playing dress-up. Let me ask you this. Why would someone who's truly content feel the need to overcompensate so loudly, so suddenly, so consistently? Because, folks, real peace is invisible. It doesn't have to explain itself. It doesn't need applause, and it damn sure doesn't need to prove a point. But when someone's cracking under pressure, when their guilt, regret, or confusion is growing, they don't know how to sit with it. So they run to distraction. And in today's world, that distraction is often digital. It's easier to edit a photo than to sit in silence. It's easier to write a self-love caption than to write a sincere apology. It's easier to post strength than to admit weakness. And let's talk about timing. Pay attention to when these posts start ramping up. Is it after you stopped reaching out? After you started glowing in your own lane? After they realized you're no longer available for the old version of them? That's not a coincidence. That's a reaction. That's panic in disguise. They don't want you to see them breaking, so they create a highlight reel of the life they wish they were living. But energy doesn't lie. No matter how bright the filters, there's a shadow in their eyes that no photo edit can erase. And if you look close enough, you'll see it. You'll see the stiffness in their smile, the tension behind their captions, the emptiness they're trying to fill with curated joy. They might even post things they know will reach you, intentionally. Cryptic quotes, favorite songs, inside jokes masked as randomness. They want to remind you that they're still here, still thriving, still unfazed. But here's what they don't realize. The need to be seen like that is already proof they're not over it. Because when someone is truly healed, they don't broadcast for the person they used to be with. They release them. They close the chapter and move forward, not loudly, not desperately, but peacefully. You might be tempted to engage, to comment, to message, to decode every post. Don't. That's what the ego wants. Your reaction gives them validation. It tells them you still care. But your silence, your lack of reaction, that's the loudest message of all. It says, I'm no longer playing this game. And trust me, that silence will rattle them more than any comment ever could. And here's what hurts them most. When they see you glowing without the need to post about it. When they notice your peace, your growth, your stillness, and realize it's real, No hashtags, no filters, just truth. That's when the pressure becomes unbearable, because now they're not just losing attention, they're losing comparison. And in their world, comparison is survival. But let me be clear again, this isn't your problem. You didn't ask them to perform. You didn't ask them to lose themselves trying to win a game of appearances. You chose truth. You chose growth. You chose stillness. And that's why you're free. So when you see the over-posting, the over-smiling, the curated confidence, don't buy the illusion. See it for what it is. An echo of someone who lost control and is now performing peace because they don't know how to build it. Comment this below. Peace doesn't need proof. Let it ground you. Let it guide you. Let it remind you that your healing isn't performative. It's powerful. You don't need to prove anything to anyone who couldn't see your value the first time. Show them. Show yourself. Show the world that true growth doesn't need a spotlight. It just needs consistency. And stay with me, because in the next section, we're exposing another shadow, not what they post, but what they avoid. The silence around certain people, certain conversations, certain memories. We're going to talk about what happens when someone starts hiding from those who see through them. Number 4, they're extra quiet around certain people. The loudest lies are the ones we tell with our silence. There's a shift, a weird quietness. They're still talking, still moving, still doing the usual, but not around everyone, not in every room, not with every person. Because the moment someone who truly knows them walks in, the volume drops, the energy shifts. They go from bold to careful, from expressive to tight-lipped. And you start to realize they're not quiet because they're at peace. They're quiet because they're afraid of being seen. That's one of the deepest signs they're cracking under pressure, folks. When they go mute around the ones who used to know their truth, the ones who saw what really happened behind closed doors, the friends who watched the connection fall apart, the ones who don't buy the performance. That's silence. That's not maturity. That's avoidance. Imagine standing in a courtroom and knowing one person in the crowd holds the evidence that could expose everything. That's how they treat those people now, with caution, with avoidance, with discomfort masked as distance. They won't talk about you around them. They won't ask about your name. They pretend your story doesn't exist, but it's written all over their nervous energy. And you know what's wild? These are the same people who once said, "I don't care what anyone thinks." Now they're filtering every word, every move, every glance. Because pressure isn't just about breaking down emotionally. It's about how much effort it takes to keep a lie alive. And keeping that image together in front of someone who knows better, that's exhausting. My friends, if someone truly moved on, they wouldn't need to censor your name. They wouldn't need to duck and dodge people who know the full story. They'd speak openly, freely, calmly. But instead, they shut down. They avoid certain gatherings. They suddenly don't talk to those people anymore. Not because they've outgrown them, but because those people became mirrors. Mirrors that reflect their guilt, their regret, their cracks. You'll hear about it secondhand, maybe from a mutual friend. It's weird. They get weird whenever your name comes up. Or they didn't say anything, just changed the subject. And you might wonder, why? If they're happy, if they're healed, if they were the one who walked away, why so quiet? Because they're not at peace. They're managing a narrative, and keeping up a narrative takes effort. It means constantly editing yourself, watching your words, avoiding certain triggers. But here's the problem with pretending for too long. Eventually, your body betrays you. Their hands fidget. Their eye contact breaks. They laugh at the wrong time. They shift in their seat. Their silence becomes so loud it drowns out the room. Not because they've matured, but because they don't trust themselves not to crack in front of the wrong witness. You see, silence isn't always strength. Sometimes silence is fear. Sometimes it's guilt's final hiding place, because saying your name out loud means acknowledging the story they tried to bury. And in the presence of truth-tellers, they know they can't fake the script anymore. They know those people remember. They remember how loved they were. They remember how they pulled away. They remember the version of them that took you for granted, then pretended it was self-love. And when the performance is too fragile to survive exposure, silence becomes the only defense. They might act cold, detached, aloof. But pay attention, those aren't boundaries. They're shields. They're escape hatches for people who don't know how to sit with the weight of their own reflection. And the reflection is loudest when someone who knows the real story is around. It's the coworker who used to see you two texting all day. The mutual friend who watched them pull away. The sibling who told them not to lose you. The one person who saw the real love and the real loss. And now they avoid those people like a fire alarm they can't silence. Because one honest question could blow up the whole performance. But here's where it gets interesting. The more they avoid those people, the more the mask slips. The more the room feels it. Because silence doesn't protect your image. It exposes the emotional weight you're trying to deny. And when someone's silence becomes selective, when they're only quiet around those who remember you, that's not peace. That's pressure. And what's even more telling, sometimes they'll try to flip it. I just don't mess with those people anymore. They were always in our business. I outgrew them. But deep down, you know it's not evolution, it's evasion. Because avoiding people who tell the truth isn't growth, it's fear of being found out. They're not just avoiding others, they're avoiding themselves. The version of themselves they became when they had you, the person who felt safe, seen, stable. Now they're in rooms that feel hollow, conversations that feel staged. They're putting on a show for people who don't know what's really going on, and the more they perform, the more they feel like a stranger to their own reflection. But you see through it. You're not fooled by the stillness. You know that sometimes the quietest people are carrying the loudest regrets. That silence can be a disguise for inner chaos, and the less they say about you, the more it means. So don't interpret their quietness as peace. It's not grace, it's pressure. It's not dignity, it's fear. And the more they avoid the truth, the heavier it sits on their chest. Because pretending you're not a chapter in their life doesn't erase the fact that you were the whole book. Comment this now: silence reveals the truth. Let that be your compass when their words disappear. When mutual friends tell you they don't talk about it. When their feed is loud, but their soul is mute. Show them, show yourself. Show the world around you that you're not chasing performance, you're grounded in truth. And stay with me, because in the next section, we're peeling back another layer of the breakdown. The side comments, the sarcasm, the passive-aggressive texts. We're going to decode what happens when pressure turns into projection, and why their bitterness might be louder than their love ever was. Number 5. Passive-aggressive communication spikes. When people can't face their feelings directly, they leak through sarcasm, silence, and side comments. They won't say they miss you. They won't admit they're hurting. They won't own the pressure that's building up inside of them. But suddenly, they've got a lot to say. Just not in the way you expected, not with clarity, not with maturity, but with passive-aggressive shade, vague digs, and emotional static disguised as humor. My friends, this is one of the loudest signs that they're cracking, because passive aggression is the language of the emotionally cornered. When someone's drowning in the consequences of their own choices, but still too prideful to admit regret, their words get twisted, their tone gets sharp. Their texts carry this strange tension, just checking in messages that feel loaded, compliments that hit like jabs, jokes that aren't funny. They'll say things like, "Glad to see you're finally doing something with your life," or "Guess I wasn't good enough to motivate that version of you." It's not direct, but it stings, and that's the point. They're not trying to reconnect, they're trying to rattle you. This isn't about resolution, it's about reaction. Passive-aggressive people don't want peace. They want control without accountability. They want to feel like they still have a place in your mind, even if it's a bitter one. They want to keep the strings attached, not because they care, but because you slipping out of their hands terrifies them more than admitting they let something real go. And you know what's wild? Sometimes it doesn't even come directly from them. Sometimes it's through mutual friends. Suddenly they're telling people you've changed, that you think you're better now, that you're acting different. These little whisper campaigns aren't random, they're weapons. It's how they poke you without having to confront you, because confrontation would mean facing the truth, and the truth is heavy. The truth would expose their fear, their regret, their failure to handle you right. So instead, they throw shade in the shadows. You'll notice it in how they reply to your stories. Maybe they leave a weird emoji. Maybe they like a photo from 6 months ago, then nothing else. Maybe they send you a funny meme that's just a little too pointed. They're not saying what they really mean. They're hoping you'll decode it, hoping you'll respond, hoping you'll break the silence first, so they don't have to. It's a mind game. And it's rooted in fear, because passive aggression isn't strength. It's emotional cowardice wearing a clever jacket. It's the voice of someone who can't say, "I'm sorry," so they say, "You're so sensitive." It's someone who can't say, "I miss you," so they say, "Don't worry, I'm doing fine without you." It's not clarity, it's confusion dressed up as confidence. And here's the real kicker. They're hoping you'll mirror it. They want you to play back, to clap back, to send a jab of your own, because that validates them. It means you still care. It means I still affect you. And if they can't be in your heart, they'll settle for being in your head. That's the desperation behind every shady message. They'd rather be resented than forgotten. But you've grown. You don't respond to breadcrumbs. You don't decode half-truths. You don't dance around the fire just to make someone who burned you feel warm again. Because you know this isn't about them being clever. It's about them being emotionally stuck. Their sarcasm is grief wearing a costume. Their indirect jabs are just regret that hasn't grown up yet. Let me paint you a metaphor. Imagine someone tossing a stone into a pond. They want to disturb the water. They want ripples. That's what their passive aggression is. It's the stone. They're hoping you'll ripple, that you'll break your peace to respond to their pain. But here's the power move. Stay still. Let the stone sink. Let the surface stay smooth. Let them drown in the silence they once used to control you. Because silence, when chosen, is stronger than words when weaponized. And if you do reply, if you feel the urge to confront, to call them out, to clear the air, pause. Ask yourself, is this for healing, or is this just to prove I'm right? Because people who throw passive-aggressive energy your way aren't looking for healing. They're looking for leverage, and they'll twist your words into another excuse to play the victim. And let's not forget, the root of all this is pressure. It's internal chaos leaking out sideways. It's the mental and emotional weight of pretending to be unbothered while quietly falling apart. They don't know how to say, "I'm hurting," so they say, "You think you're better than me now." They can't say, "I wish things ended differently," so they say, "Must be nice to finally grow up." They think they're being slick. They think they're in control. But deep down, they're screaming for clarity, for connection, for release, and they're doing it in the most indirect, disempowered way possible. But that's not your problem anymore. You're not here to babysit broken communication. You're not here to decode puzzles made out of pride. You're here to grow, to heal, to move. And every time you don't respond, every time you choose stillness over smoke, you reclaim your power. So next time you receive one of those shady comments, those weird texts, those cryptic posts that feel like they were written just for you, smile. Because what you're really seeing is someone who still feels your absence but can't say it with their chest. Someone who thought they'd be fine without you but can't stop reaching out through shadows. Comment this now. I don't respond to shadows. Let it be your shield. Let it be your peace. Let it be your line in the sand that you will not step over, not even for a clever insult, not even for a familiar tone. Show them. Show yourself. Show the world around you that you've graduated from emotional games, that you don't need to clap back to stand tall. That silence is your language now, not out of weakness, but out of wisdom. And stay with me, because in the next section, we're moving beyond the words and into the body. The sleep changes, the eating shifts, the physical unraveling. We're going to uncover how emotional pressure always finds a way to show itself, especially when the mind won't admit it. Number 6, their sleep, eating, or routine gets erratic. The body keeps the score, especially when the mind is still pretending nothing's wrong. You want to know if they're cracking? Don't just watch their words, watch their patterns, watch their sleep, their energy, their eyes. Watch how their routine, once so structured, starts to fray at the edges. How late nights become early mornings with no rest in between. How meals become skipped, rushed, or emotional. How the gym they bragged about going to every day becomes just another place they're avoiding. Because when someone's losing emotional control, the first thing that breaks is not the facade, it's the rhythm. See, the nervous system doesn't lie. The body is the place where all the unspoken emotions go to hide. And when someone is pushing down regret, guilt, sadness, fear, shame, confusion, it starts showing up physically. It starts stealing their rest, interrupting their hunger, breaking down their internal structure. At first, it seems small. They start staying up later, watching one more episode, scrolling until 3 a.m. Not because they're so happy and free, but because silence terrifies them. Because once the world goes to sleep, the noise in their own mind gets louder, and they're not ready to face it, so they distract, they numb, they scroll through strangers, searching for something to fill the space you used to occupy, but nothing fits, nothing lands, because nothing compares to what they threw away. And then comes the food, or the lack of it. Some lose their appetite altogether. Eating becomes a chore. Others eat too much, trying to swallow their feelings down, fill the hollow place where your energy used to live. They might say they're just trying a new diet or intermittent fasting. But watch closely. Is it discipline or is it dysregulation? Their whole schedule begins to bend. They miss appointments, cancel plans, forget things they used to stay on top of. They start showing up late, not just to events, but to their own life. Because when you're emotionally scattered, time becomes slippery. You either rush to escape the discomfort, or you freeze and let the hours melt around you. Either way, your body stops working with you and starts working against you. You might hear someone say, they've changed, they seem off. That's not growth, that's unraveling. And what makes this part so subtle, so often overlooked, is that it doesn't come with dramatic declarations. No tearful monologue, no "I miss you" text, just exhaustion, just a worn-down version of someone who used to walk through life like they were untouchable. And now their body is betraying them in all the ways they refuse to let their emotions speak. They're tired, but they can't sleep. They're hungry, but they don't eat. They're free, but nothing feels satisfying. They thought they wanted space, but now the silence tastes like static. The freedom they fought for has become a maze of restlessness. And the more they pretend they're fine, the more their body tightens up. Because suppression is not peace. It's just a slow form of self-sabotage. You see, we are not built to carry emotion without release. We are not designed to pretend forever. Eventually, what we suppress finds another way to express, and if it's not through truth, it will be through tension. Some will try to hide it behind hyperproductivity. They'll dive into work, hustle harder, pick up new projects, post about grind culture. But even that becomes unsustainable, because you can't outrun emotional weight. Not with caffeine, not with workouts, not with to-do lists. Eventually, the cracks in their routine will start to reflect the cracks in their spirit. And here's the thing, my friend, they don't even know why it's happening. They can't connect the dots yet. They'll blame work stress, say they've just been busy, say they're fine, just a little tired. But deep down, they're unraveling, slowly, quietly, internally, and the body is just showing what the ego is too proud to admit. They might even look in the mirror and start to see it. The bags under their eyes, the slump in their posture, the look that says, "I'm here, but I'm not okay." And that scares them, because that reflection doesn't match the image they've been trying to project. The image of moving on, of leveling up, of not needing anyone, especially not you. But that lie is cracking now, not through tears, not through breakdowns, but through fatigue, through dysfunction, through the little signs that their world doesn't run the way it used to, not since you walked out of it. And what you must understand is this. This is not your invitation to fix them. This is not your cue to check in. You are not the emotional first aid for someone who ignored every signal when you were bleeding in front of them. You are not the medicine now that their sickness has surfaced. You are the mirror they shattered and are now haunted by. Let them sit in it. Let them wrestle with their own rhythms. Let them rebuild their schedule around their own accountability, not your emotional labor. Because their sleep schedule? It's not random. Their lack of appetite? It's not coincidence. Their broken routine? It's not chaos. It's consequence. The consequence of disconnecting from something that grounded them, from someone who stabilized them, from you. Comment this now. Energy doesn't lie. Say it for yourself. Say it for the ones still watching you. Say it for every time someone tried to hide behind fake peace and filtered smiles. Because while they're spiraling quietly behind the scenes, you are rising with clarity, purpose, and grounded peace. Show them, show yourself, show the world around you that healing isn't about pretending. It's about feeling. It's about staying in rhythm with your own truth, even when it hurts, even when it's hard. Even when the ones who once called your love too much are now suffocating in the silence you left behind. And stay with me, because in the next section, we're diving into the war inside their mind, the broken stories, the narrative flips. One day you're the villain, the next you're the one who got away. We're about to expose what happens when regret rewrites the script. Number 7. Their story about you keeps changing. When people can't face the truth, they rewrite the story just to live with themselves. First, they said you were the problem, too much, too emotional, too intense. You loved too deep, gave too much, needed too often. That's what they told themselves when they walked away. That's what they repeated to friends, to anyone who asked, and maybe, for a while, even to themselves. It was easier that way. Easier to blame you than to face the mirror. Easier to paint you as the storm than to admit they were the one who pulled the lightning in. But now the script is breaking. The lines aren't landing. The mask is slipping. And their story about you? It's starting to shift. One day, you're the villain, the one who drained them, the one who didn't understand them, the one who changed. And then suddenly, you're the memory, the good one, the real one. The "if only I had done it differently" story they quietly carry into new conversations, new connections, new distractions. This is what happens when pressure meets regret, when the narrative they built to survive no longer holds up against the weight of their own conscience. They start reworking the plot, bending the truth just enough so they don't have to admit the most terrifying thing of all, that you were never the problem. They were. You'll hear it in passing, through mutual friends, or maybe directly in strange, uninvited texts. You always meant well. I know I was hard to deal with. I didn't know how to handle someone like you. And just like that, the same person who once claimed you were too much now hints that maybe you were exactly what they needed. But here's where it gets messy, because they won't say this all at once. They'll flip-flop. One moment they're resentful, the next they're nostalgic. One week they ignore your existence, the next they're posting sad lyrics that sound a little too familiar. This inconsistency isn't random. It's not just mood swings. It's the result of a collapsing narrative. They can't keep the lies straight anymore, because the version of you they pushed away, the strong, grounded, loving version, is the same version they now secretly miss. It eats at them, slowly, quietly, because their ego still wants to be right, but their soul knows they were wrong. So they start rewriting the past in pieces, telling themselves half-truths like, "We weren't right for each other back then," or "maybe in another life." It's their way of coping with what they lost without fully taking accountability. They soften their story about you, not for your sake, but for theirs, because hatred is easy to carry when the guilt hasn't kicked in. But once the silence stretches too long, once they see you rising without them, that's when their script starts to unravel. And if you're not careful, their shifting story can start to affect your own. You might begin to question what happened. Wonder if maybe they're right. Maybe you were too reactive. Maybe you expected too much. Maybe you should have tried harder. That's the danger of revisionism. It infects you if you're not grounded in your own truth. But I'm here to remind you of what they won't. You were not the problem. You were the mirror. And mirrors make people uncomfortable when they're not ready to face themselves. Their story about you keeps changing because they're changing, but not in the way they pretend. They're unraveling, they're regretting, they're being haunted by the decisions they swore would bring them peace. And now they're trying to rewrite the ending to a story they thought they were done with. But it doesn't work that way. Life doesn't give you peace for pretending. It gives you peace for taking ownership, and they haven't earned that peace yet. So don't fall for the nostalgia. Don't get pulled into the revision. Just because someone remembers you differently now doesn't mean they're ready to love you properly. Just because they've stopped calling you the villain doesn't mean they're ready to become the hero of their own healing. People will tell any story to protect themselves from the pain of knowing they let something beautiful die, that they fumbled something rare, that they watched a real one walk away and didn't even try to stop it. That kind of truth is sharp. It cuts deep. And the only anesthetic some people know is denial. But here's what they can't deny. Your growth is undeniable. Your glow is louder than their silence. Your boundaries, your peace, your absence. They've rewritten their life more than any breakup post could ever do. You became the unspoken chapter they can't stop referencing, even when they don't say your name. So when their story shifts, when they say you changed, or you were always solid, or I didn't know what I had, don't confuse that with readiness. Don't mistake reflection for transformation. It takes more than memory to be worthy of your presence again. It takes change, real change. And real change doesn't speak in riddles. It speaks in actions, in consistency, in full truth, not half blame. You're not a character in someone else's guilt trip. You're not the subplot in someone else's lesson. You were the real thing. You are the real thing. And their inability to recognize that the first time, that's not your burden to carry. So if they reach out, stay grounded. If they send mixed signals, stay clear. If they shift the story, stay firm. Because you don't need their approval to validate your journey. And you don't need their apology to confirm your worth. You already know the truth. Comment this now. I know my story. Write it loud. Write it for yourself. Write it so the next time their narrative wobbles, you won't wobble with it. Let the world know that your identity isn't up for debate. Your peace isn't up for negotiation. And your truth doesn't change just because someone else's memory does. Show them. Show yourself. Show the world around you that you're no longer waiting for them to tell the right story. You've moved on to write a better one with peace, with strength, with full clarity. And that's how this ends, not with them rewriting the past, but with you reclaiming your power. The chapter is closed. The story is yours. Let them remember however they need to. But you move forward, unshaken, unbothered, unapologetically free. You were never invisible, they just never looked with eyes that deserved to see you. Let that sink in for a second. Really let it hit your chest, because it wasn't your lack of beauty, worth, intelligence, or soul. It wasn't that you were too emotional, too available, too loving. It was them. Their blindness, their arrogance, their ego so bloated they couldn't see gold if it was laid at their feet. They didn't see you because they refused to. Because if they did, they'd have to admit you were everything they didn't have the capacity to deserve. And when you finally stopped trying, when you finally pulled back that endless, loyal, self-sacrificing energy, they didn't applaud you, they didn't thank you, they pretended like you never mattered. But my friends, don't be fooled by the silence. Behind that performance is a storm. Behind that "I'm good" mask is someone drowning. Because they expected you to break, not become. If you've ever given your best and been thrown away like trash, if you've ever stayed when it hurt just to be treated like garbage, if they laughed at your loyalty and mocked your love, I want you to do two things right now. Smash that like button, hit subscribe, because this is your turning point. This is the script they never wanted you to hear. Hey folks, imagine this. You're standing in a room full of people and you scream, not a little whisper, a real soul-tearing scream. And nobody looks up. Not one person turns their head. You scream again. Still nothing. So what do? You go quiet. You leave. You vanish without a sound. And suddenly the silence hits them like thunder. Now everyone's looking. Now they're whispering. Now they're searching. Not because they care, but because they noticed too late. That's exactly what happened with you. You gave. You showed up. You texted first. You made plans. You forgave. You believed in potential they didn't even believe in themselves. And for what? To be sidelined. To be made into an option. To be treated like a doormat while they played games with your loyalty? Let's destroy that lie right now. You were never too much. You were never clingy. You were never dramatic. You were consistent. You were committed. You were human. But they weren't ready for that. They weren't man or woman enough to hold someone real. So instead of rising to meet your level, they played small and made you feel like you were the problem. But let me tell you something they'll never admit. They miss you. Not just the messages or the attention. They miss the version of themselves they got to be when you were around. The one who felt seen, valued, wanted. You were their mirror. And now that mirror's gone, they're left with nothing but the cracks they tried to hide. Now, they pretend. They laugh louder, post more, act like they've moved on. But every fake smile is an attempt to cover the echo of your absence. Every new connection is a desperate attempt to recreate the feeling only you gave them. And they know, deep down, they fumbled something real. So stop crying over people who were too emotionally broke to afford your love. Stop waiting for a what if that will never come. Stop mourning someone who isn't even worthy of your silence. You are not trash. You are not backup. You are not disposable. You were the whole damn blessing. And now it's time they feel your loss. Take a deep breath and drop this in the comments. I was never the problem. Say it with your chest. Say it for the version of you that begged for love. Say it for the version of you they never truly saw. And press that like button if you're done being unseen. Stay with me, because what's coming next, it's going to flip the entire game. Number 1. The art of being overlooked. They didn't ignore you because you lacked value. They ignored you because they needed to believe you didn't have the power to walk away. Let that slap the lies right out of your mind. They didn't treat you like trash because you were trash. They didn't choose others because you weren't enough. No, my friend, they belittled you, ghosted you, overlooked you, because if they saw your worth, they'd have to face their own inadequacy, and their ego couldn't handle that truth. So instead, they kept you in reach, but out of respect. They kept you around, but beneath them. They fed their pride with your patience, your loyalty, their safety net, your love. A mirror they refused to look into. And when you gave them chance after chance, what did they do? They spat on it. They wiped their feet on your worth like you were a damn doormat. And now they act like you were too much? No, they were too small. So folks, imagine this. A diamond sitting in the corner of a dusty room. No spotlight, no display case. People walk past it like it's nothing. They step over it, maybe even kick it aside without a second glance. Why? Not because it's worthless, but because it's surrounded by trash. And to recognize its value, they'd have to stop and look deeper. They'd have to clean it off, lift it up, admit they'd been blind. That's you. You've been surrounded by people who saw your shine and chose to squint, because seeing you for who you truly are would have meant changing how they treat you. And let's be real, they didn't want to level up. They wanted to keep you below them, begging, proving, over-explaining, adjusting. Not because you were beneath them, but because they were never meant to stand beside you. And now the questions start creeping into your mind. Why wasn't I enough? Why did they choose her over me? Why do they treat strangers better than they ever treated me? What if I never find someone else? What if I was really the problem? Let me shut that noise down. Right. Now, you weren't too sensitive. You had empathy. You weren't clingy. You had consistency. You weren't crazy. You had boundaries they couldn't manipulate. But instead of valuing your depth, they went for shallow. Instead of rising to your frequency, they ran from your light. Because light exposes, and your presence made their shadows nervous. You have to understand, people who are emotionally bankrupt will always treat wealth like a threat. Your kindness made them uncomfortable. Your love made them feel exposed, and so they did what cowards do. They played blind, acted indifferent, and kept you on the shelf like you were a backup option, not the main story. And here's the darkest truth. They saw your worth. They just hoped you never would. Because the moment you do, you stop begging. You stop explaining. You stop shrinking just to fit inside their broken lens. And that is their worst nightmare. But I get it. Letting go of someone who never truly held you in the first place. That's a strange pain. You're grieving a fantasy, mourning a version of love that only existed in your mind. And that's where the fear comes in, doesn't it? What if I don't find better? What if they move on and never look back? What if they never realize what they lost? My friends, that fear isn't proof of love. It's proof of the lie you were taught, the lie that their validation proves your worth. But not anymore, because today we break that lie wide open. Let me tell you this. You are not optional. You are not background noise. You are not their emotional punching bag. You are not their late-night convenience. You are not to be accessed by people who only know how to consume, not cherish. Stop watering people who never planned to grow with you. Stop throwing pearls at those who only know how to trample. Stop asking for a seat at tables where your love gets dissected like it's a weakness. You gave the best of yourself to someone who didn't even give you the decency of honesty. And now? It's time to take it all back, piece by piece, energy by energy, bit by beautiful bit. And no, I won't lie to you, rising after being discarded isn't easy. It takes guts to walk away with your head high when your heart is in pieces. It takes fire to look in the mirror and say, I don't need their apology to heal. But it's possible, and it's worth it. Because when you finally reclaim your worth, something incredible happens. They feel it. Not in a loud scream, not in a final argument, not in a dramatic goodbye, but in your silence, in your absence, in the peace they thought they could destroy, but now have to watch you thrive in. So yes, they ignored you, but not because you were invisible, because they couldn't handle what they saw when they looked too close. You scared them, your love scared them, your strength scared them, so they played dumb, played distant, played cool. But behind that act, they're not winning. They're watching, silently, obsessively, regretfully, because now they know. You were never the doormat. You were the door to something they didn't have the courage to walk through. Right now, take that in. Feel it in your chest. Breathe. And type this in the comments. I was never the problem. Show them, show yourself, show the world. Your worth was never up for debate. Stay with me, because what's coming next, it's going to burn every lie they ever told you about your value, and ignite every truth they hoped you'd never remember. Number 2, the savage power of non-resistance. You don't win by chasing, you win by disappearing from where you were once expected. Let that hit like cold steel in the gut, because some of you are still out here thinking the answer is one more text, one more paragraph, one more tear-soaked explanation. You think maybe this time they'll understand. Maybe if you just say it better, they'll get it. But my friend, read this slowly and never forget it. They understood you the first time. They just didn't care. You're not confused. You're not crazy. You're not the problem. You're just addicted to trying to make sense of someone who never intended to respect your effort in the first place. And that's where we destroy the myth of reaction, the illusion of proving. You think your love will change them? Your silence will haunt them harder than your explanations ever could. That's not just poetic. That's psychology. So folks, imagine a tug of war. You're gripping the rope with bloody hands. You're pulling with everything you've got, emotionally, mentally, spiritually. And on the other side, they're not even pulling back. They're just holding the rope, watching you exhaust yourself, watching you explain, beg, stay loyal, prove your heart, over and over. Now imagine what happens when you suddenly let go of the rope. They fall flat on their face, not because you fought harder, but because you stopped playing the game. That's the savage power of non-resistance. It's not rage, it's not revenge, it's not proving you're better. It's knowing you never had to in the first place. When you stop reacting, when you stop pushing, when you stop handing them your energy like it's a donation basket for their ego, you start starving the very thing they fed on. And they will starve. Not immediately, not loudly, but steadily. They'll scroll through their phone waiting for your name to pop up. They'll post just the right story to see if you'll bite. They'll throw out bait wrapped in subtle guilt, fake celebration, or even silence. And you don't move. That's power. But let's talk about why this is so hard for you. Why not reacting feels like dying inside. Why staying quiet feels like abandoning hope. Because somewhere along the way you were taught that silence meant weakness, that not responding meant defeat, that indifference meant you didn't care. But let me tell you something, Stoicism teaches with a blade-sharp edge. True strength isn't loud, it's not reactive, it doesn't flinch, it simply refuses to participate in chaos. You think by letting go, you're giving up. But you're not giving up. You're growing out of needing to be seen by someone who's already blind. You're not being cold, you're being clear. You're no longer auditioning for a role in their fantasy. Stop thinking your love can fix people who benefit from being broken. Stop trying to earn from someone emotionally bankrupt. They don't ignore your texts because they're busy. They ignore them because they know you'll send another one. They don't avoid closure because they're confused. They avoid it because keeping you confused gives them control. But when you stop chasing answers, when you go ghost where you once glowed, the game ends. And here's the cruel, beautiful truth. You don't deny them power. You let them keep it. And when they realize your attention isn't fueling their ego anymore, they panic, they unravel, they starve. Because people who build their worth on your reaction cannot survive your silence. They crave your triggers, they live for your slips. But when they send out bait and get nothing but your peace in return, they choke on the quiet. So don't fall for the trap, my friends. Don't respond to the "I miss you" masked as a meme. Don't fall for the carefully crafted accidental likes. Don't break your silence for someone who used your voice like background noise. Right now, I want you to sit with this. They didn't deserve your reaction. They barely deserved your presence. From now on, let your stillness be the storm. Let your indifference be the echo they can't silence. Let your disappearance be the proof they never expected to see. And say this with me, loud and clear. I don't react, I rise. Drop it in the comments. Write it for the version of you who once begged. Write it for the version of you who thought staying visible would win them back. Write it for the person you're becoming now. Show them. Show yourself. Show the world. And stay with me. Because what's coming next, it'll make them regret ever thinking your silence meant surrender. Number 3. The mirror effect. What your detachment does to them. When you stop reflecting their importance back to them, they lose sight of themselves. That line right there? It's a dagger. Because this isn't just about heartbreak. This isn't about rejection. This is about the collapse of an illusion they built, with your love as the foundation. They didn't value you. They valued how they looked in your eyes. You were their mirror, my friend. A beautiful, shining, steady reflection that made them feel whole, admired, powerful. And now that mirror's gone, they're staring into emptiness. Now, imagine this, folks. A person stands in front of a mirror every single day. They admire themselves, fix their hair, smile, not because they love their reflection, but because the mirror flatters them. Now, one day, that mirror disappears. Gone. No warning, no replacement. Just a blank wall, no reflection, nothing to see. What do? First, they pretend it doesn't matter. Then they squint. Then they start to panic. Because they weren't looking at the mirror out of love. They were looking to feel like someone. And when that source of validation vanishes, they don't know who the hell they are anymore. That's what your detachment does. It shatters their self-image, not because you punished them, but because they depended on your presence to feel real. You hyped them up, you gave them depth, you reminded them they mattered. And in return, they gave you silence, games, crumbs, and confusion. They didn't love you. They loved how you loved them, and now that you've pulled that light back, they're stumbling in the dark. Here's the thing most people won't admit. Some people need to be admired to feel alive. Not loved, not known, admired. That was your role: cheerleader, therapist, emotional safety net. And as long as you stayed in that role, they felt powerful. As long as your eyes sparkled when they walked in the room, they felt worthy. But the moment that sparkle turned inward, the moment you started seeing yourself, they started falling apart. And don't be fooled by the fake confidence. The louder the laugh, the more desperate the pain. They post, they party, they move on. But underneath that is a quiet panic. Why aren't they chasing me anymore? Why did the mirror stop reflecting? They check your profile not out of love, but to make sure they're still relevant. They replay conversations not to remember you, but to remember who they were around you, because you were their mirror, and your silence is now their empty reflection. They never prepared for this. They never thought you'd stop seeing them as the center of your world. They assumed your love would stay loyal, even to your own destruction. But you finally stepped back, and your absence, it's louder than every word you ever said. Let's kill the lie that says you need to make them feel what they made you feel. No, you don't need revenge. You don't need drama. You don't need one last argument or some poetic goodbye. You need distance. You need detachment. You need to stop being the mirror and start being the masterpiece that no longer waits to be viewed. Let them squirm. Let them wonder. Let them chase their reflection in everyone else and find nothing but broken glass. Because the thing about people like that, they don't miss you first. They miss the version of themselves that they could only be around you. But guess what? That version is gone. And so are you. Right now, take a second, close your eyes, and own this. You're no longer someone's emotional mirror. You are not responsible for reflecting their value. You are not responsible for fixing their cracks. You are not responsible for showing up so they feel seen. Let them sit with the emptiness. Let them feel the vacuum your love used to fill. Let your absence show them exactly what they lost, without a single word. And say it with me right now: I am not your mirror. Drop it in the comments. Write it for every time you gave and gave just to be discarded. Write it for the future version of you that will never again be someone's reflection, only your own light. Show them. Show yourself. Show the world. And stay locked in with me, because what's coming next? It's going to burn even deeper. They've felt your silence. Next, they're about to face your evolution. Number 4, they'll pretend not to care while secretly breaking. People don't break when you leave. They break when you stop giving them a reason to lie to themselves. And that is the punch they never saw coming. Because walking away isn't what ruins them. No, what ruins them is when you stop feeding the fantasy, when you stop being their excuse, when you finally let the silence speak louder than every second chance they mistook for weakness. That's when the mask slips. That's when the panic sets in. That's when the cracks start crawling across the version of themselves they pretended to be. But here's the wild part. They'll pretend not to care. In fact, they'll make it their mission to make it look like they've never been better. Watch them. Suddenly, they're healed. Suddenly, they're at the gym, laughing louder, traveling, hanging with people they never posted before. That's not healing. That's hiding. That's not confidence. That's a performance. So folks, imagine this. Someone walks out of a burning house, slams the door, and turns around, smiling at the neighbors like nothing's wrong. But inside, that place is in flames. That's what they're doing right now. They're burning, silently, slowly, But because they've painted this image of not caring, now they're trapped in it. They have to pretend, they have to perform. Because admitting they miss you would mean admitting they lost something real. That's not strength. That's suffocation. They're not posting for fun. They're posting for you. They're not glowing. They're gasping. They're not over it. They're just obsessed with looking like they are. Watch closely. The signs are everywhere. Overposting, suddenly finding themselves, uploading every inch of their new life. Quotes about peace and self-love, right after they tore apart the person who gave them both. Unnecessary selfies, new flings broadcasted like billboards. They're not living, they're advertising their distraction. And the sickest part? They hope you'll see it. They want you to feel like they're fine. So you start questioning your worth all over again. It's psychological warfare disguised as Instagram filters and fake laughter. But here's what they didn't plan for. You not reacting. You not caring. You not watching. They expected you to chase, to crumble, to stalk their stories and spiral. But when you don't bite, when you disappear into your own glow-up without clapping back or seeking closure, that's when they spiral, because the truth is they were never fine with